So anyways, so tell us about your background and how did you decide to become a professor?
So first off, our background, we've known each other since about 2009-ish.
Yes.
So that's when you'll get this witty banter. I started wanting to be a faculty probably around the time that we started getting to know one another. I was kind of hanging around the college. I had big boy jobs, and then I came back to do some graduate work. And then one day somebody came by and was like, hey, have you ever thought about teaching? And I was like, it seems kind of cool. And I got to co-teach a class with Dr. Neil Terry and Dr. Wes Frisky. At the time was just Wes Frisky, Wesley Frisky. And so then we got to teach a class, and it was really cool. And so then I started trying to get into a program, and here we are.
Awesome. Okay. Well, where did you actually attend school for your PhD?
I applied a bunch of places, and I got accepted into University of Mississippi, also known as Ole Miss, which at the time, I thought those were two different schools. And so I was trying to apply to both, and I was like, it keeps redirecting me. So they're the same place. So learned that the weird way.
Awesome. So then why did you choose marketing? Why did you want to do marketing?
I've always wanted to do marketing. When I first started here at WT, I really wanted to do English, oddly enough.
Yeah, I did not know this about you.
It's either made up or hidden. I don't know which one. But I started that. But then I really liked advertisements and whatnot. And so I really wanted to go into marketing because of advertising. Because I always give the story in class. But there was an old commercial for Diet Coke at the Batman VHS beginning where they had Alfred bringing out the little Batman Diet Coke with the cape on it. And for some reason, that always stuck with me. And I thought if that had that lasting of an impact, maybe I could do something like that someday. So after that, I realized marketing's way more than advertising. So it was kind of neat to know that.
Oh, that's cool. I did not know any of this about you, so that's cool.
That's why this is fun.
This is cool. So you haven't always been Mr. Smarty Pants, though. So I've heard that you struggled a bit during your undergrad.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Did you fail a class?
I've failed classes. I've dropped out of several classes. So at one point in time, I was talking to another faculty here who was new, and they asked how it was like being, because I was a former student here, they asked how it was knowing the faculty, and I said, well, the weird thing is I've had about 17 of these faculty, and oddly enough, I've failed quite a few of their classes. And so I've dropped a few of them, even really close friends and whatnot. But I've failed classes. I had to drop classes. It's been quite interesting.
So what was the difference? Why were you failing and dropping, and then now you have a PhD, so...
Initially, I think it was just because I'm an 18, 19-year-old male, and so we're just not as focused as we could be at the time. And so taking all the intro classes, I came in with quite a few credits, so I started off in the business school kind of earlier, and so I was still fairly immature. Mm-hmm. So accountings were the ones I had the most trouble with early on, but that doesn't seem to be too uncommon. But then oddly enough, I failed a lot of stats courses, which is ironic because now I'm kind of a data monkey, and so all the stuff that I used to fail, that's what I do.
That's cool. Well,
so never give up.
Never give up. That's the lesson right there.
Because it took until my PhD. I mean, it never. So if you've ever watched a video of someone, it's kind of been popular on the internet right now, where you'll be laying brickwork, mm-hmm. and you'll knock it down one way, and then it cascades and it goes back the other way, and it sets in a really cool way. That's what stats was like in my second stats class at Ole Miss. I had taken a bunch of stats classes. I failed several stats classes, but I went to Ole Miss, and I was actually worried about stats. And so then one day, for some reason, Dr. John Bentley, who's the program chair there, he just said something, and it all just clicked into place. And at that exact moment is whenever it all was just super clear.
Huh. It's interesting that you say you never felt like, even before your PhD, you didn't feel like you were great at stats, because I remember you helping me during my master's.
I was passable.
Well, you were passable, but you were able to explain it to me in a way that then I could go off and do it. So
it's because I can dumb things down really well because I am dumb. So I'm speaking my native tongue. I can go from the dumb bit and then the fake words that I know my second language is smart.
Okay. So then what are some suggestions that you have for students based on your own academic journey?
The biggest one, and something I wish I would have known a little bit earlier on, it worked out for me towards the end, but get to know your faculty and really engage with them, because you learn things in class and they're quite useful, but if they ever say anything that you find kind of noteworthy or something that you kind of find fascinating, go talk to them about it. We have a passion for what we're trying to do, and so just go just have a conversation in their office hours. Just say, hey, you mentioned this thing in class, and I thought that was really fascinating. So my current boss, Diarno Diarmond, I was in his class, and he was teaching advertising. And he was talking about the FAB, which is called Features, Advantages, and Benefits. And oddly enough, I was working at a golf course at this time, and we got a mailer for a company called TaylorMade. And they had, the advertisement had FAB, Features, Advantages, and Benefits. And so I sent that to him, and I was like, hey, we talked about this in class. This is pretty cool, right? And so that sparked a little conversation. And so we had kind of a relationship well before I knew I wanted to be a faculty member. But it was just a way to say, hey, this is cool. And we talked about it. And it was it opened up a few doors of discussion beyond what the classroom can hold.
Yeah, cool. All right. What is your favorite class to teach?
To teach, probably principles, because I get to see students who are it's a clean slate. I get to see them actually attain knowledge at the exact moment, because I teach quite a few grad courses, and a lot of those students have a ton of experience and things like that. So I'm kind of I'm more or less putting a nice finish on an already painted wall. Whenever it's a brand new student, I get to have a fresh, clean slate to work with. And so I really like teaching principles. But each of them has their own benefits and drawbacks. It's the same way with online or in class. They're different styles, and there's different interactions. And so each is benefits and drawbacks. So I really like my graduate strategy course because I get to see kind of the bookends. So that's the kind of the very last course you would take as far as a marketing student in the graduate program. And so I get them at the very first bit of a BBA and the very last bit of an MBA. So it's really kind of neat.
That's cool. Well, that actually flows really well into this next question. So what's the most unrecognized part of marketing that your students are surprised to learn about?
Unrecognized. So when it's early on, a lot of students, they think just like I did, that advertising is the thing that you do as a marketer. It's all the pretty stuff you see on TV, but the background stuff is what not a lot of students realize. And so I tell my students now, if I were to go back in time and I were a student at this point with my kind of knowledge of what I know now, I would say that being like a marketer with a CIS minor, a CIS with a marketing minor would be extremely useful, because we can teach each other how to utilize the resources that we have. And so data, the background stuff, kind of informs advertising now. So yeah, it's cool to make the advertisement, but the data that we collect and how we utilize that collected data, so where that CIS and the marketing come together, that's the real powerhouse of what marketing actually is. That's why most of your multi-billion-dollar companies, they're mostly just information companies.
Yeah.
So.
Well, as mentioned earlier, you won the Teaching Excellence Award. So why do you think your students like you? And what do you do in your classes that makes them awesome?
Well, it's just really good investment. So what I did is I just pay them to do that. And then it's just an interaction. I give them money, they give me that, and I win awards. And so that's the easiest way to handle that. Not for the most part. I just try to be human with them. I try to be very open and transparent. I try to make things relatable. So I really like to know what you do. And so I have, oddly enough, I'll have a lot of ag business and whatnot in my marketing 3340 class. So I'll try to prep before class on what they would find interesting. And so I try to do it with all my classes. I have a music business student in my advertising class right now, and it sometimes is a hard sell, but I'll try to do what they kind of do, so we're speaking a similar language. And so for the most part, conceptually, what I try to do with teaching is that you have a concept, and I try to teach it at level A, B, and C. And those three levels are just progressively harder. So now that we've done addition, now let's throw in a fraction. Now let's throw in an algebraic equation. So you have those three bits. So you're trying to capture all the people. So that's hopefully how it goes. But I'm far from perfect in that regard. But that's the idea when I walk in the room.
Sure. Okay. So where do you see the world of marketing in the next 20 years?
Data.
All data.
Marketing's all data. It's going to be at least data driven. Mm-hmm. And so no matter what marketers are doing now, it's going to be data driven, regardless if you are even traditional marketer, or if you're a salesperson, or if you're in pricing, or whatever you wind up being in, you're going to be data driven even more, just because we collect so much data. I never fact checked it, but it came from, I believe, The Economist, and they said we created as much information in 2019 as we had from 2018 until the beginning of information collection. Mm-hmm. So that's just telling you the scale of the amount of information that we capture and we gather. So knowing data is going to be extremely important.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's interesting because we're so willing to give up our information because we want the convenience, from our cell phones or something like that. I recently went to Disney and the Magic Bands. Do you know about those? Mm-hmm. So it was just interesting because I was willing to wear the Magic Band so that I could use it for my hotel key and I could use it to scan to pay for things. But then I was realizing later that they could just like track me. Okay, that middle 30-year-old, woman that didn't have any children with her at Disney World, where did she go and what was she buying? And it, like,
how fast did you move around? Where did you go after you did X? What did you do with Y?
Yeah.
All that's data. And they've been doing that for years. So one cool thing, I worked for a distributor for a large Arkansas retailer at one point in time. And one of the cooler things that I learned about tangentially was the RFIDs that went into products as well as into the carts to see how you moved around a store. So they've been doing stuff like that for a real long time. Now it's just almost not, it's not passe anymore. You can just do that and people are going to be okay with it.
Well,
you
especially if it makes it convenient.
Data? Sure, yeah, whatever.
Yeah. Great. As long as it makes my life easier, then sure.
Why would I not want to do that?
Yeah.
My data means nothing to me to some degree, but it means a lot to an advertiser or to a marketer.
Huh, that's cool. Okay, let's see. If you weren't a professor, where do you think you would be? What do you think you'd be doing as a career?
Oh, I don't know. I should have been a trust fund baby. I really think I could have done well at that, but if I couldn't have opted into that, I always find things fascinating. I think a JD would be cool. I really find the law fascinating. I think a psychiatrist would be really cool. At one point in time, I wanted to be a marine biologist. Another time, I wanted to. Right?
Why? I didn't know this about you. So what made you interested in that?
It was just fascinating, just because it's vast and whatnot, but it's also terrifying. So that's thalassophobia, just the vastness of the ocean. But yeah, I want to be that. I also wanted to be like a mineralologist and be into rocks and stuff like that at one point in time. So any and all the above. I can find something fascinating about most boring topics.
That's awesome. So who do you think has had a strong impact on your life?
Personal, professional, all the above.
All the above?
Okay. Neil Terry has certainly had a big impact on me. He was one of the people that let me in the classroom the first time. He's the one that talked me into kind of looking at PhD programs and whatnot. So he's had a big impact. I worked for Dr. Anwar for a while. I was his graduate assistant for 2 years. He's oddly enough the one that told me to get an MBA. I went into him one day as an advisee, and I was like, hey, I think I want to get an econ double major. And he's like, why? Why not go ahead and do econ whenever you're going up through your MBA program? That way you're a graduate student. I was like, oh. I didn't even think about that. So
That's
he
an
certainly,
option?
I had no knowledge. I had no knowledge that programs can be as little as 31 hours. Ding. And so I never thought about that route. So had it not been for Dr. Anwar telling me, hey, you should do this, I wouldn't have progressed that way. I wouldn't have ran into Dr. Terry, and he wouldn't have let me in a classroom. And Dr. Bentley, he was one that taught me stats and made me kind of what I am. So he's a very big influence in my life. Tracking back, obviously the parents, right? Because I have the good and bad qualities of both the parents.
As we all do.
Right. For better or for worse.
Okay. In the past 3 years, you've participated in 4 different study abroad trips. Yep. Why do you love to lead study abroad trips?
So I'll take a slight step back. We traveled a ton whenever I was a kid. We would always take trips. It was usually by RV. My parents are one scared of water, one scared of planes, and so we always went by RV because it's neither of those two things. So I just like to travel. Travel is inherently fun for me. And so the study abroad thing is something that I really want to do whenever I was a student, but I never had the finances to do it. And so the thing that I really like about study abroad is actually getting to see things through a student's eyes. And so I'm going to put a cool quote out there. Be the person now that you wish you had back then. And so I want to be the person that facilitates an educational experience for something that I wish I could have had. So right. That's my favorite thing about study abroads.
Plus now we actually help finance these study abroad trips for students.
We do. Through the Schaefers and through the Engler Foundation, it has helped out several students, and this is our second year doing it. And so I really appreciate that because, again, that would have actually been me. I would have been more in this in that scholarship side. So I really appreciate that about them. So Schaefer Foundation and Engler Foundation, we thank you.
Yes. So where have you traveled to on study abroad trips?
So for the faculty-led, I've Germany, Switzerland, Austria, which is a trip we're doing again this summer. I did that one in 2017 with Dr. Ann Macy and Betty Stalker. And then in 2019, I went to Sweden and Denmark with Dr. Babb and Dr. Macy.
Cool.
And then, the other two, they were through a company called IBS, International Business Seminars. And so we went to China in summer 2019. And then over this last winter break, went to Southeast Asia. Yeah, it was really cool.
That's cool.
But it was before the outbreak, so I'm clean.
The incubation period is over.
Yeah, my incubation period is right on the mark, so I'm fine.
Okay, good. I'm glad that I'm gonna go over here now. So, what's your favorite place you've ever traveled? Doesn't have to be study abroad, just ever.
Favorite place I've ever traveled? It might be China. It was the most different from what I'm used to culturally. And so it was different enough that it was fascinating to learn different styles, but at the same time comfortable enough that I felt safe at all times, and I really felt connected to the people. So it was really neat. So, because I mean, going to like Western Europe and Scandinavia and whatnot, I still kind of fit in there as far as my language and my background. It's very Westernized. But that was my first time in a non-Westernized context. So I think at this current point in time, I would say China.
Yeah, I recognize that when I went to Denmark, because it was like, there's a McDonald's and and they're speaking English to me, so it doesn't feel,
Yeah, and they actually speak English better than I do, so then I felt bad. Your third language is better than my first.
Do you have any specific funny stories from one of your study abroad trips?
Oh, there's tons.
Any that are appropriate for the camera?
Actually, no. No. Most funny thing. So it all depends. So each student has their own unique and different experience. And so like someone who I didn't really know very well at the time, but then she wound up working for the graduate office whenever I got over there, was Julie Blackwell. And we were doing this big long trek, and I thought we were supposed to meet up with a former WT student. He was just going to do us like a little hike. So, I mean, I pictured something, a couple 100 meters or something like that. We're traversing these mountains, and it's just, it's a very grueling hot day, and she's kind of lagging behind, and she says something like, I hate every decision I've ever made up until this moment. And so that little like moment of misery made it really fun for us. And so we then talked the whole rest of the way, and we became really good friends from all that. And so that little interaction made us have a really close connection and whatnot. And so just those little things like that. And I have those with pretty much everybody. So those little stories are what make it awesome.
Yeah, that's that thing when you leave a study abroad trip and you feel this like camaraderie with this big group, and you're like, now I'm not going to see you again. Like, it's kind of weird,
Oh, that's why I love. So we do group me's now, and so we have Steve and we still group meet each other and say like funny things, or I just really like memes, so I'll send out a funny meme, or if we do a shared experience together, if someone's doing that in another location, they'll send that out, and so it's still fun to get to interact with them in that regard.
It's the awesome thing about technology. The last time I did study abroad trips, it was
Rotary phones?
No, we had technology, but it was not as widely used or as easy to use. So, I mean, I think that students now are able to keep in touch with you easier. So that's cool. All right. So moving on to more personal questions. Tell us about your wife and how'd you two meet?
So I met wife in 2005, not 2 weeks ago, over 15 years ago. Yeah. We met at a trailer park over here down past Allsup's. We both went to the Wesley, and there was a movie that we were going to watch. And the only reason I know the date to that exact day, it wasn't like I remembered at the time, but I had a friend who worked for a retailer, and he got an advanced copy of a movie the day before the release date, so I could look up the release date and see one day prior. That's when I met wife. But we were sitting there, we were watching a movie. It was super dark because we're watching it, and I kicked my feet up from the couch, and I land on her leg, and she's just like, ow, because I kicked her unintentionally. And so I guess the complaining just worked. And so now we're together for 15 years.
15 years later, here we are. That's right.
So yeah, we met here.
Awesome. Pets?
Oh, we have one dog. We've had several dogs. This one's now 13 in a few days.
Egg or soup.
Egg or soup. Yeah, egg or soup. But yeah, we have one dog.
Awesome.
Almost had a cat, but I'm allergic, and so is my mom.
I didn't know this.
It was in our backyard, and it wouldn't leave, and it was super cute, and so it was sad.
It was super cute, huh? You really wanted to keep it.
Yeah, I really would have, but again, allergic, so that was less than ideal.
I thought y'all had tons of cats around.
We do have tons of cats around, but they're not.
That particular one was just the one that...
Yeah, it was fine. It was just this little black cat, and black cats are hard to adopt, and so it would have been hard to take it to the pound. Fortunately, wife had a friend that took it, and now it's a full inside cat, which is nice. Cool. Because it's super cute.
So anybody that's ever been around the College of Business floor knows that you have a style that is all your own. So you like
I'm extremely handsome, but
what
else?
That's true. But you like your plaid sport coats and your Converse shoes and your super fun socks and your pins. Tell us about your socks and your pins.
And my tie clips.
Oh, your tie clips. I forgot about that.
So these are just like points of flair, I guess. So I'll put on different pens, and most of the time people don't notice, but this one's a Tyrannosaurus Rex in a sweater because it's cold outside. So that makes sense to me. This is wife got it as an anniversary present. It has our wedding date on it, and it was a 10-year anniversary, so it's a dime. So
cool.
Super cute. So all the stuff that makes me look cool is wife's choice. The socks say "Not all who wander are lost," which is a book quote. Wife and I are both big book people. So all my socks are related to books in some way, and so are my pens. Are just kind of expressions. Whenever we had a recent changeover in some administration, I wore a "Don't Panic" button. I don't know if anybody actually noticed that, but I try to make them themed for what I'm trying to do.
So what's your favorite pair of socks that you have?
So I have a pair of socks that on one side are names of banned books, and on the other side is the censored name of the banned book. So it's a banned book sock. So since they're different, I like that.
That's cool. That's cool. Is this your favorite pen?
Right now it is. It's my favorite currently. This or my sleepy Triceratops. Either way, because it's fun to say, so sleepy. So yeah.
Awesome. So since I've known you for a long time, I've gotten to hang out with you outside of work, and I know that you like playing board games. What would be your favorite board game?
Ooh, that's hard.
Well, you're really good at a lot of them. So like,
Well, I don't want to brag, but I'm probably the greatest person at board games that anyone who's watching this has ever met in their life.
He's hard to beat. Really, it's true. I don't know if it's just luck every time or he's just really good at strategy, but
it's all the above. Probably Catan. So when I really started getting into games, that was the first game. That was whenever the Euro invasion, quote unquote, of board games was. So I really start to like Catan.
That was like your gateway board game.
Yeah. I started with Catan, and then I was freebasing Ticket to Ride.
No more Monopoly. I mean, none of that's any good.
Peasants. No, but probably Catan, just because there's so many expansions and stuff you can do with that.
Awesome. So something to relate to, college students. What's your favorite beer?
Style or particular, like, brewery?
Either. All of the above.
Breweries, currently Pondicetta. They're in Amarillo. They make great beer. They're Canyon folk, and they just make a ton of really good styles. And so that's probably the favorite brewery currently, just because they're so good and they're very local. A lot of good craft beer is hard to find in this area. We're a beer desert. Favorite style? It probably will go down to IPAs just because they're so popular right now. They're the trending thing. And so IPAs, double IPAs, things like that, hazies, all that's probably there. And particular beer, that's tough because there's so many things that's drinkable about a beer.
You couldn't pick a favorite.
All or no, all of them. They, I think Pondicetta had a series called Pyrite Series that they did a single hop of, and I really like their first batch. So that's probably it for right now.
Awesome. Okay.
Bet you can't get it again because it's a series.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So what are your interests and hobbies right now? Like, what are you reading or learning about in your spare time?
So interests are always going to be travel, food, and drinks. I really find that fun. So I've slowly started getting wife into other drinks too. So like we're on a bourbon kick now. So we've been making a lot of cocktails, specifically with bourbon, just the different styles. Especially we're starting to see kind of a resurgence of craft distilleries. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of fun. We're seeing that. With food, I've been cooking a lot more. It seems like what wife and I are doing now is picking a style and then rolling with it. And so now we're on Indian. And so we bought an Indian cookbook, and we've got all the spices that go with that. And so we're trying to eat like 1 or 2 meals a month that are Indian based.
That's cool.
So that's kind of cool.
He's a really good cook, actually. There's not been very many times that I've gone to your house and not liked whatever was presented.
As everyone probably knows by now, I'm great at everything that I do. Everything I touch is gold.
I was waiting for that to be put into this interview. I just knew it had to be there somewhere. He says that almost every day.
That's unfortunately true.
All right.
Oh, you said what was I learning about right now?
Oh, yeah. Something that's off the wall that you are learning about.
So something that I've always found fascinating is religion. And so I'm jumping into different religions. And so that's kind of where my hobbies have kicked back in. So I've always found it, I try to study that. Mm-hmm. And so I'm jumping back into that pretty hard into some subsets. And so that's really quite fun.
That's cool. All right. So what is your best piece of advice on any topic?
On any topic. Take good notes. That's a joke because Lindsay knows I don't take notes on anything.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Ever. And I don't know how he keeps everything straight, but he does.
It's all made up. That's why.
I'm good at BSing.
Accurate. Just another thing I'm great at. What? On any topic. Keep an open mind because you never know. Once you start getting myopic and you can't see the forest for the trees, or you can't see outside of your own biases, you're going to get caught into an issue. So make sure that you're always looking outside of yourself. Try to empathize with others and see where they're coming from, and never shut people out because you don't. Just because I had a bad idea in the past doesn't mean I'm not going to have a great idea in the future.
Yeah.
Now, sometimes it takes a bunch of bad ideas in a row, but you still have to give that person that legs until they finally get one right.
Failure isn't the worst thing to happen to you.
No, I fail all the time. You hear that a lot, but I truly do. I don't mind failure because you learn from it, and so I fail a ton. I mean, just like we talked about the first, I failed a lot of stuff before it finally started working out.
Well, awesome. Is there anything else you'd like to share about yourself here at the end?
No, but now we have to flip the interview, and you answer all the same questions.
Me? No.
Yep.
I don't teach marketing. I don't have a PhD.
Yet.
No. Nope. My favorite class to teach, I've only taught one. So
it has to be your favorite. So
that would be principles of management.
Have you ever failed a class?
No. But
well,
I did.
Consider an 89.5 for you is failing.
No.
So.
I did get a C one time, and it was Dr. Macy's class. And it was
shout out
during no, she's a great professor, but I took it during winter intersession, which is not the greatest idea if you have never known anything about a topic.
I failed a May intercession, finance 30 through 20.
You did?
Yep.
You failed it.
Yep.
Was it with Macy?
Stamfley.
Oh, do I remember? Oh, Chris Stamfley. Yep. Yeah. Okay.
I failed that one.
Who'd you finally pass with? Who'd you take it?
Dr. Macy.
Oh, awesome. Well, anything else?
That's all I got as far as I'm aware.
I don't know.
Tanner?
Any questions? No. Well, Dr. Robert Allen King, he's super awesome. Students love him. And that's obviously why he's won the Teaching Excellence Award. So if you have a chance, take his class.
Thank you.
Or go and study abroad.
All the above. Keep me employed.